My name is George Wolberg. I'm a Pintillism artist with an extensive background in image processing. I've been a professor of computer science for over 30 years. I wrote the first book on the subject of image warping, and I pioneered image morphing, which is a powerful visual effects tool used in the visual arts community. Pintillism is a unique art form made from tens of thousands of nails. I am inspired to have made Pintillism from the fascination of pointillism, which is a technique developed by Seurat and Signac back in the 1880s. In that work, they relied on the viewer to be able to blend the spots of color into a wide range of tonalities. I create the tonalities in my Pintillism work by varying the density of pins. So I would use a higher density of pins to represent dark regions and a lighter density or a sparser density to represent lighter areas. So I'm basically painting with pins instead of color. The piece behind me is made of approximately 20,000 pins. So there's a lot of work that goes into composing the piece and then producing a rendering that would show you what the artwork would look like when produced in pins. And this rendering serves as a blueprint to guide where the pin should go. So this whole process can take, depending on the image, it could take a week or two to make. Right, so I'm inspired to make the pieces I select based on various elements. So the example that you see behind me of the face is an example where I think Pintillism works best, where you could zoom into the picture and express all the fine detail with pins, because it dramatically shows you the varying density of pins. You could use, as I said, the higher density for dark areas, the sparser areas are light, and you can see that most clearly when you zoom into a piece and explore the whole range of tonalities. I like to work from people's faces, and that works well for commissioned works as well, or architectural details, like in the classic multi-panel Elizabeth Tower that I've generated. That's a 9-panel piece, having nearly 250,000 nails in it. So I explore the whole gamut. Well, that's an interesting question. What are the range of pieces that are suitable for Pintillism? I've made Pintillism of scenes, of faces, of text. I'm surprised and always amazed by the wide variety of topics and elements that I can transform into Pintillism work. Well, Pintillism is unique in the sense that it's made up of tens of thousands of nails, and that makes it 3D art as well, because the nails are 3D. So it creates a very interactive experience. As you look at the artwork from head on, you will basically be looking down the heads or the tips of the pins. But you'll notice that as you move laterally, you will see the body of the pin, and that causes the entire piece to have a darker shade to it. So actually the shading of the piece varies, not just based on lighting, but also based on the viewer angle. And that makes this a very interesting interactive experience. And furthermore, because it is 3D, it's also a tactile experience. You're invited, unlike most art, you are now invited to touch and feel the pins. You could actually touch the artwork and explore it both from a tactile experience and another interactive viewing experience as well. Now, getting a private commission involves basically just emailing a photograph, and then I will explore what elements I want to pull out of it. I could use photo editing tools to say, let's erase the background, let's just focus on these elements. I could bring up the color in it, in the original piece. Then I transform it to grayscale or black and white. And then from there, I can create a rendering that shows you where the pins will ultimately be. The customer can then approve the rendering, and if so, that rendering serves as a blueprint guiding me where to put the pins. And that's basically the process. Email the photo, I create the rendering, you approve it, and then we can go from there and make the piece. Now the pins we use are made of galvanized steel. They look like gold. They're actually bronze or copper color. But when you look at the artwork, it does appear monochromatic. It looks black and white. But then you could see the gold color depending on the glimmer of light that shines on the work. So it is monochromatic, even though the elements, the pins themselves, are copper color. Well, I use specially created canvases that have uniform density. This way I can make sure that when the pins are applied to the board that they all have the same height, because I don't want pins of different height. That's not what's going to create the effect you see anyway. The effect is created by varying the density of the pins, and I like the pins all to have the same height. It makes it for a very nice tactile experience where you could be invited to touch and feel the artwork itself. I have many favorite pieces, but if I had to pick one, I would say it's the Elizabeth Tower, which is a 9-panel piece having approximately 250,000 pins. It was one of the most challenging pieces I made, and I like it particularly because it has many different elements in it, including architectural elements, different shading and shadows that you see in the water. So I would say that's among my favorite. I do also like pieces where I can zoom in to the fine detail, let's say of a person's face. Those I love because it's dramatic what you could see with the different tonalities you can create in pins as you go from dark areas to light areas in a nice smooth manner, just by varying the density of the pins. Those are basically the ones I look for. But of course, any piece that a client has me commission and I make it and they're enthused by it, that becomes my new favorite as well. I'm working on a new project involving color, adding color to the mix. I've explored by having the background painted before the pins are applied. I've explored having colored pins as well, although that can sometimes be more problematic because, as I pointed out earlier with the idea of pointillism, which is what inspired all this work, there's a blending happening between the pins and the background. So the most dramatic effect that I'm discovering now in the course of creating a new color version would be by having a layer of printed canvas before the pins are applied, and then even adding perhaps some epoxy to help bring out the colorful elements with greater shine. So these are all works in development. As far as collaboration with artists, I haven't explored that yet. I like to work from photographs. I like to work from images. So that's where I do get my inspiration just from looking at photos that I think would lend itself well. And like I said, it could be some amazing shots of people. It could be architectural scenes. I've done text as well. So the source of input and the collaboration it could be varied greatly. Yes, this is my first visit to the gallery. I'm really excited to see it. It's one thing to see pictures of it. It's another thing to walk in and see all the work live and laid out so beautifully by Yaron and his fabulous team. I'm so delighted to be here, and I welcome everyone to come to the gallery.